Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit hoarse. Normally I do most of my commentaries and most of my recordings after work, but this is like 10 o'clock in the morning when I'm recording this. I just felt like making some content recently just because I haven't recorded anything in the past couple days, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on the whole PewdiePie racist slur N-word situation that's been going on. Normally I don't do this kind of sort of stuff because I don't like to do what everybody else is doing, you know, on YouTube, but I figured, you know, being a black man, being on YouTube, that's a rarity in itself, so I figured, you know, why not give my thoughts on it? I mean, that's YouTube. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, normally I scratch my head like, all right, like, what am I going to talk about, you know? So when situations like this come up, it's like, you know, why not make a video on it? So, but honestly, about the whole situation, I mean, I could care less. It doesn't affect me personally. Him saying the word nigger doesn't really, you know, bother me personally. You know, it's, the word nigger is kind of like one thing where I'm not gonna say most black people are used to it, but if you're from a certain, let's say, age bracket, probably, or it won't, you know, I'm not gonna say it doesn't affect you in, you know, the same way. Like I would say, let's say from my age bracket and down, meaning I'm 34. So let's say, not let's say my generation, but let's say people under me, like people who are 20 in their teens, children, things like that. It probably affects them more, let's say, mentally, you know, because none of it affects you physically anymore. Now, my parents' generation, when they had to grow up through all of that segregation stuff, you know, that's where it can, you know, I would truly be offended, like if I was somebody like that. But, you know, me coming up in the 80s and 90s, I've had racial slurs thrown at me, racial slurs being said, things like that in person, but it's never been one of those things where it's like, I've never walked into a store and been like, you know, get out of my store, you black nigger, you know, that's never happened to me. So, even young, you know, generations, you know, younger than me are probably not feeling that same thing too, unless you just happen to live in those areas where they do that. You know, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I mean, it is what it is. It's not affecting the mass majority. It's not like, let's say, my parents' generation who, you know, when they grew up through all of that stuff, that was open everywhere. You know, that was the thing. But with PewdiePie saying it's to me, I'm like, dude, you represent, whether you know it or not, you represent gaming content on YouTube. It's like, come on, man. You are one of the biggest names out there. Like me, I know his name, I know his face. I've never watched, I think I watched like one video of his, like years ago, probably like 3, 4, 5 years ago. When people was like, oh, this guy made, you know, tons of money. I'm like, all right, who the hell is this guy? Like, what is he doing? You know? So I checked out one of his videos and he seems like he was that Minecraft type player who liked to pander the kids. Not, you know, that's not my interest on YouTube. So I just clicked off and that was it. So I know who he is. I know what he represents. He's kind of like that top guy on YouTube for video game content. And that's where I think the problem is, not the fact that he said it, you know, because I can care less whether he's a racist or whether he, you know, says it personally or in the context that he uses. I don't give a damn how he said it. You know, I'm like, you represent everybody else on here. And if you know that, let's say, kids are watching your content, you know, by the millions, it's not like, oh, you know, I make a YouTube channel. It ain't like this channel where like I can say whatever the fuck I want on here, you know, like, you know, I don't have no following yet, you know, so it's like, but you got millions of people that watch your stuff, and you know this, you make deals and you got, you know, programs and things out there that you promote yourself on, and you're a brand at this point. It's like, why are you doing something stupid? You know, like this is like somebody who is, let's say, let's say like you just had a channel. Let's say you had 10 or 20 some thousand subs, right? And let's say before you understood how things worked on YouTube, right? This is something that, let's say, would have happened like 6 years ago. And somebody found a clip of him saying it and then brought it up. Be like, look, PewdiePie says this. You know, like, yo, that was like 6 years ago, back when, you know, I didn't know any better. Now I know, now I know better, and, you know, I try to, you know, treat myself accordingly and treat my fans, you know, the way they're supposed to be treated. I'm trying to keep things at a family friendly light or whatever. You know, that's you know, that's what this feels like. It's like you're like, you know, you have millions of subs and millions of views. It's like, you know better. Like, I know he knows better. You know, this is because you don't get this big without being a certain way. That's one reason why, you know, I'll never be that big, and I know that. So it is what it is. I mean, to me, YouTube isn't a job, so that's why I'm not censoring this video like most channels when they talk about it. I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm gonna say the word. It is what it is. But that's just where my problem was, and not the fact that he said it, but it's just the fact of him being that big and him saying it, because that's gonna have repercussions. Probably not across the internet, because I mean, it's nothing in comparison to what's said on the internet, but my problem is that YouTube is going to look at it, because, you know, they look at that kind of stuff, and probably all of the sponsors and stuff that, I mean, that go on YouTube and put ads on videos, things like that. They're going to look at him, since he's the top guy. They're going to assume, if you don't know YouTube, it's kind of like anything else. If you have, let's say, I'm going to use race as an example, because that's, you know, what the video is about and everything. But if you have, let's say, like a white person and a black person, right? You have, let's say, if you're white, and let's say you grew up in, you know, a white family, you lived in a white area, you know, you lived predominantly around white people your whole entire life. You've never really known, well, I'm going to say known black culture, as if we have a long-term culture, but we don't. But let's say, you know, you don't know what it's like to be around black people, to be around black culture, that kind of sort of thing. So by doing certain things, you're gonna assume black culture is what you see on television: basketball, tennis shoes, chicken and watermelon. You know, all the stereotypes that black culture has, you're gonna assume that we do. Not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just that happens until you get around black people. And yeah, a lot of it's true. I'm not gonna say it's not. You know, we make fun of ourselves more so than anybody else probably, but it's one of those things where you're not gonna understand it until you're around it. You know what I'm saying? And maybe, you know, that's how most of, let's say, those advertisers, or let's say even people on YouTube, because unless you're on YouTube doing gaming content yourself, or if you're a part of the gaming community, you know, on YouTube, if you watch gaming community, you see what channels are out there, you see what people are doing, you have an idea of what gaming is on YouTube. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're not a part of that in any way, shape, or form, you're gonna assume. You know, you're gonna look at the PewdiePies, the Markipliers, the Radbrads, the top people who do gaming content on YouTube, and then you're gonna make assumptions. So by him being the toppest guy out there saying the word nigger, it's like, and I'm somebody, like I said, it's not the word, it's not even the context. I mean, I could 100% forgive it if, let's say, like, if he was making a joke and had a punchline to it. Let's say he was dressed up in, like, as a southern white guy with I forget what the southern flag is called, but let's say he had one of those like pinned on the wall, and he was like portraying a racist southern guy live streaming, and he was just making fun of it, and he was like, oh, fuck that nigger, you know, and things like that, right? I can forgive it if you're making fun of it, if you're making a joke, because that's what comedians do. You push the envelope. And if he's an entertainer, you know, I mean, granted, I mean, I don't know why I'd be throwing that kind of comedy out there to kids, but if you're an entertainer, that's something that you got to do. You know what I'm saying? It's just depending on how you want to take your comedy, how family friendly you want to be. you got to put yourself out there like that. Comedians have been getting flack about that kind of stuff for years, going back, hell, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, I remember some of the Richard Pryor stuff from way back in the day. I mean, that was some great comedy material, but again, vulgar, racist, very mature, things like that, right? But I remember I seen the video, because I just seen it because it was just people were talking about it on YouTube, and a few people I'm sub to, they were talking about it. And I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, damn, I can't even justify it. I can't, make up an excuse. Well, he did it for this. It was just like, he got a little bit too comfortable. That's what I think it was, YouTube. I mean, I'm somebody who I don't say the word nigga, or any variation of it. That's just not a part of my vocabulary. I think even in my personal life, the only time I really say it is if I'm quoting somebody else, or let's say like a comedian, or I'm saying something from a movie or something, and I'm saying a quote from whatever the character or the comedian or whatever, he said. And if you cut out the word, it kind of lessens the impact of what was said. So that's the only time I'll say it. But in my personal life, hell, even when I'm video gaming, and let's say I'm not somebody to super rage at video games, but I'm not somebody, I don't get on there and be like, oh, fuck you, faggot, or fuck you, nigger. That's just not me. I carry myself a certain way, even in real life. And I'm not trying to say I'm straight edged or nothing like that. Hell, I cuss all the time in my videos, but even in my personal life, I would consider myself, people around me in my personal life will call me educated. I'm all yes ma'ams and yes sirs when I go to work. I'm like super professional. I know how to turn it on and turn it off. Hell, I think sometimes when I get on the mic and make commentaries like this, I feel myself get a little bit too comfortable because I'm used to doing YouTube a certain way. Like, I've been doing YouTube for like 6 or 7 years. So I cuss in my videos and stuff because I don't like to hold myself back as far as my, mature content. I mean, I don't care about pigeonholing myself into a certain medium. And so I'll just cuss, and, it is what it is. People hear it every day, and if you don't like it, okay, don't watch my stuff. But I know not everybody is like that. So PewDiePie, when he said, the word nigger, it's like, it's just, I'm not mad at him. Like I said, I don't watch none of his stuff. I can care less. It's more of an issue with, like, they're gonna look at everybody because of what you did. And who knows if anything is going to become of this. I mean, maybe nothing might happen. In a couple weeks, it'll probably blow over, and because his fan base is, they're not going anywhere no time soon. It's not like he's going to get half his subs to just unsub him, and his views are going to drop by like 6 million views. Ain't none of that going to happen. I mean, he's too big to fail at this point. I mean, his name is too recognizable. It's too well known. It's too out there. But I just don't want like YouTube to come down and be like, you know what? Now we're putting like a blanket statement across all of YouTube. You're not allowed to cuss in none of your videos, or otherwise they won't, get uploaded. They'll be blocked. That's what I don't want. Because YouTube, I mean, they're a private company, so they can do anything they want as far as their website. It's not public. Like every time something goes down, you always see that one person, oh, take his content down, or take their content down, or YouTube should be public. YouTube is not public. It's not a public forum. So any kind of rights, American free speech, whatever you want to call it, does not apply on YouTube. At any time, they can go up and change one thing. Let's say if they want to just suddenly become a Christian, family-oriented company, they can do that. And they can shut down anybody's channel they want to that didn't agree with that mindset. I'd be moving to something else. They won't be having my black ass on there. But that's just what I don't want, because I'm somebody who, I love my hobbies. I work, I come home, and I have my hobbies, and that's pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? So YouTube for me is a great hobby, and I want to see it continue. I've been doing it for 8 years, and I probably will be doing it for the next 10 or 15, 20 years, if not more, unless my love for video gaming or the internet dies down, which I just don't see happening no time soon. But I just don't want PewDiePie's negativity, because I don't know why he said it. I mean, maybe he could be, going through some shit in his personal life, or maybe You know, like I said, maybe he got a little bit too comfortable. Maybe he uses it in his personal life. I don't know. I think he's like Swedish or something over there. So, I mean, maybe that's just how they roll over there. Maybe over there the word nigger isn't, you know, as you may know you may know the name, but maybe they don't, you know, maybe they use it over there in public like that. Who knows? I have no idea. But I just don't want any flack for the rest of us just based on what he said, just because he's the biggest name out there. I know something's going to happen. I just don't know what, and I hope it's not to the extreme that, you know, I was talking about a few minutes ago. But anyways, fellas, my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.